Yeah, Russ, I see you moving and shake a bit. It's like Russell keeps under the radar, and the next thing, boom, there it is. Good for you.
You have to teach me about La Bola suit, bro.
Have we got a negotiating team together, Russ? It's very important. Trust me, I learned from experience.
I'm actually pretty excited for this topic today, because it's quite current, actually. I'll talk about the last financial play group topic.
not the Bola topic.
It's not gonna be cheap, eh? I know for sure. Because she comes from a good family. She's got a doctorate and everything.
I'll teach you some tricks, Russ. I'll teach you some tricks. Talk to me afterwards.
Russell, best to start buying some cows, buddy. Just a little piece of land and just start breeding them. It's going to be the quickest way to do it.
Yeah. Tim.
Morning, guys. How's it going?
Morning, Tim. Good. Yourself, man?
Lekker. Good to see you all.
Yeah.
Sounds like an interesting conversation you're having.
Yeah, no, listen, Russell's love life is blooming, so he's kept it under the radar for ages.
Okay.
Yeah, but I knew something was going on because look at him, he hasn't got a tie or jacket on.
Right. He's nice.
I should have known. I should have known something was happening.
Absolutely. All the tells are there now, hey?
Yeah.
Hindsight's always 2020.
It's all making sense. Russell, she's obviously a good influence on you.
Yeah, no, she's a good influence.
That's great news. I saw a little bit of it on Instagram, so very stoked for you, man.
Oh yeah, I forget who I have on my Instagram or my Facebook these days.
Oh, if it's on Facebook, it's official. If it's Facebook official, it's like pretty official, Russ.
Yeah, we started going, like, it's funny, eh? We started going away for dates, like on weekend getaways, and the first time I didn't post about it or anything. It was just like the weekend, like the venue. Did you know, so many people literally thought I went away by myself. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but I went to Squinnies by myself.
Nice.
I'm just gonna turn on my aircon, yeah.
Your muscles are so big now that you go for a couples massage by yourself, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So I have to ask, I think I saw it in the session that I was on. Are you one of those people that use a DSLR camera for like your Zoom or your calls? Because your video quality is always so good.
Awesome, thanks, man. I use my phone, man. So I've set my phone up through an app called EpoCam, and then my phone is the webcam.
And we're running OBS for your overlays.
What is OBS? That's new to me.
Don't come with that nonsense, Tim.
I don't. What's OBS? Educate me.
It's a bit more higher grade, I guess, way of doing video calls. But the nice thing is you can, I guess it's used a lot in church settings, because then you can and that kind of production, because you can switch to different screens a lot quicker. But what is cool about that, you can obviously set up overlays as well. So like you could have lower thirds, you can have for your different settings. But I saw an advisor using it recently at a meeting with him, and then even just instead of just sharing your screen, it just switched straight away. So it wasn't like, okay, can you see my screen? I'm going to share it now, and there's this awkward delay. It was suddenly like, and then he fixed between this and that.
Nice.
And because you can also have templates, he also had something like, just before, I didn't realize what it was because the writing wasn't so good, but before the meeting, it actually had something that's like, hey, the meeting is about to start soon, and just getting ready.
Nice.
And then at the end, it also had something that said like, thank you for meeting with us today, something like that.
Yeah.
So actually you can use it quite a lot, but it does use a few resources. So you got to also have a good computer and sort of know what you're doing. But it can be pretty cool.
Yeah, that is the challenge with videos. It's very resource intense. Yeah, I normally use Zoom for meetings, not Microsoft, and I use an app called Warmly, and that also gives some really cool options around slides, even coming up into your video feeds, messages, agendas, various things like that. But yeah, that's quite a cool thing. I'll check into that.
The nice thing with OBS is it's free. It's open source as well. So then people are creating stuff and doing things. So
okay, nice, cool, awesome.
Okay,
man.
great guys. Thanks for being here. See, people are still entering. My WhatsApp this morning is with the best intentions. It's just the group's growing, and it was originally started to assist people new in the industry, and I think we're doing that, but I also think we kind of diverged a little bit, and I just really want to get it back to basics, because as I said, this is a group that there's absolutely no one's going to get insulted if someone grows out of it or moves on. At the same time, it's like we started this to give back to the industry. Obviously, it'll be great if everyone does the same. And I know those like Russell and Simon and others that have been on a while who stay on, I really appreciate that too. So great. So yeah, I thought with getting back to basics, originally we covered a lot of basic issues around lifestyle planning issues and our processes and things like that. And I think we will go back to that, because I think obviously there are people in the group who haven't been through that, and it's also nice to revisit it. But I was thinking yesterday, like there's a lot going on. We already almost towards the end of March in a new year. And there's a lot happening in the industry right now. And I just thought, kind of what are the issues that, because a lot of, even on the WhatsApp group, a lot of people are active and some aren't, and I'm a little concerned some of the younger, newer people, I would like them to participate more. But I thought, let's just look at like what are the real issues that are affecting people, in the day-to-day work of what we do. And when I asked ChatGPT, what the 5 things were, when I looked at them, I think they really are relevant. So I thought, yeah, let's just start with that, and then obviously we can then elaborate on any of those points, and we can also, if anyone has anything else that they feel they're battling with, this is the place to ask. We may not have all the answers, but we'll probably find that people have experienced similar issues. Okay. So the first one that popped up was building a client base. So I mean, this is like obviously this is like the most obvious thing. It's the hardest thing when we're starting out, is we all want clients. If we had clients, then the job's quite easy. You kind of just, you look after them, you service them, and try not to lose them. And the difficulty is I think there are a lot of keyboard experts out there who are telling youngsters, have a niche, or niche, as the Americans call it, and this and that. But I think the reality is that when we start off in this industry, unless you're going into an established business, it's really difficult to be picky. We can't always pick and choose who we deal with. We're not going to start off with ideal clients. I've been doing this for almost 33 years. And when we look at our ideal clients in our business, we've got about 80 families. That's all after 30 years. So I'm not very good at getting clients, obviously. But those are my ideal clients. But over the years, obviously, I've dealt with hundreds of people. Some have stuck, obviously, some don't. So I think my comment around there is just really, it's a comment. It's not an answer. Is I think, as much as you want to listen to experts, and I mean that with respect and inverted commas, is the reality is we kind of need to do what we have to do to survive. And we know how the industry pays, so we're not going to talk about and debate that. But I think that, if you're a 20-something or early 30-something-year-old planner, I would say that you've got to cut your teeth on everything. Your ideal client base at that age is really going to be probably different to when you're 45 or 50 or 55 like me. So I think you want to be fussy, and I think where you want to be fussy is, you know, when you understand how you add value in what you do, you want to be, you don't want people who compromise or who make you compromise the way that you work. But like we go through phases in our career, I think clients go through phases in their lives as well. So there are going to be times when they're a lot more ready for your message, for the advice that you're trying to give, and there are going to be times where they're surviving or they're trying to survive. So I think what I'm saying is, you know, be fussy, but you also can't be too fussy because we need to survive. So I mean, I know in my career, it's a constant thing about finding your ideal clients. And the reality is that, you know, again, when you're a 20-something advisor, there are not many 65-year-olds that are going to give you their retirement funds. And that's just the way it is. Same reason, like, you know, you don't go to a 30-year-old brain surgeon because you would rather be dealing with somebody who's done it a few times. So I think, yeah, guys, I just open up to the floor. I know, Tim, you're the only one with your camera on, but I know that you obviously worked with a lot of planners over the years, and this is obviously something that that a lot of advisors battle with. Have you got any comments on this? Sorry, you're muted, Tim.
There we go. Thank you. Rookie mistake. Come across the challenge with almost every single advisor that we work with. And, you know, as Brian Foster always used to say in the early days when we were working together, was like a lot of trying to figure out who your ideal client is or just who you want to work with. It doesn't even have to be a niche or like so cut down. Is to understand your own value proposition and be constantly redefining that. And I found that it's helpful to view these things as an evolving journey and as cyclical. And don't think like you need to focus, like you're saying, on one type of client and that's it, and then block off all others. Absolutely. I think, you know, if you're very fresh out the boxes and you are looking to build your own business or your own section of a franchise that you're working in or a business you're working in, is absolutely to try and work with as many different types of people as you can. And whatever resonates with any client, take note of that and be mindful of that. I think one of the biggest challenges that financial planners have is in the first few years, my impression is that the business can be very hectic because you are just trying to get to as many meetings as you can. You're trying to write business, you need to pay bills, and you realize it's commission-based for most of the stuff you're doing. And before you know it, you're 3 to 5 years in and you're like, what am I doing? And so, you know, my impression of it is try to be mindful from day one. You know, if you're working with a client and it's hard and you don't like it and you don't ever want to do it again, take notes of what about that relationship doesn't work for you, what doesn't resonate with that client. And if you're working with someone who it's got flow, it's easy, it's comfortable, it's exciting, you want to go to those meetings, you can't wait to see that client again, take notes of it. What is it about that client? Is it their attitude? Is it their line of business they're in? Is it their value system? Because that will also help you understand your value system. And you go, right, I value people who are at the top of their game in business, or I value people who have a good work-life balance, or I value people who are out there and starting new projects all the time. Because you're going to continue to grow and do it, because you said, you know, several decades into your own business, you're also still finding out who you like to work with. And it's never cut and dried and all my clients are amazing. We're always going to have some people that are tough. I always think of them as sandpaper, and they are busy helping us cut down our rough edges and refine us as well. So it's helpful to have a mix, but I think from day one, be mindful of who you're working with and why you feel you want to keep working with them.
Yeah, I agree, Tim. I mean, when I entered the industry 30 odd years ago at Southern Life, basically, you know, I was taught how to sell 10-year endowments because there was a minimum term, and family protectors, which was a whole package of benefits, RAs. So what I'm saying is it's evolved completely. And even having done lifestyle planning for about 22 years, it's still evolving. You know, at my age,
Yeah.
I'm still learning,
Yeah.
I'm still changing, I'm still, you know, trying to get better and realizing new things. So I think very much be aware, but also don't get stuck like that I'm only going to work with this niche. It's very easy for someone to say that when they're not doing what you do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm saying listen to those people, but also take it with a pinch of salt. Russell, you had your hand up.
Yes. So yeah, I also fully agree with Tim. I'll be honest, I'm probably coming up 9 or 10 years at the end of this year in the industry. Still technically think I'm pretty young in the industry, but yeah, I agree with Dirk. Looking back at my experience, I will say one thing for sure, for a lot of younger planners, or I would say new planners or younger planners coming into the industry, you'll find you have to do quite a lot more work. But one thing I would probably say that I wish someone told me in the early stages is, always ask yourself like the point of like, why would someone come to you versus the other 1,000 planners? Like, what makes you different? It's coming from the viewpoint of putting yourself in the client's shoes. And then secondly as well, yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. In the beginning, you can't be too nitpicky about clients. But one thing I wish I was well aware of, and I wish I met Dirk sooner because I met him later on, is that you need to also evaluate like when you're going out or looking out for clients, which ones fit you, and also, which ones are worth driving out or making time to work and see. Because, for example, I used to drive out, for those of you that are in P or know the place, I used to drive out to Utenake or Dispatch, which is like a 45-minute drive out of P for a 500 Rand unit trust, or 1,000 Rand a month unit trust. And I wasn't even earning much commission or fees of that, because in my younger years, when you start out, you're like desperate for business or to get clients. So you're just like, I'm going to bend over backwards for client, any type of client that comes our way, over service them. And then what you end up realizing that over the long term, you'll end up with a whole bunch of, with due respect, clients that you don't really want to work with, or you aren't happy or passionate to work with. And mainly what leads to that is that you start actually resenting working with those clients and getting discouraged from working in the industry because you find that you're giving so much, but you're not even getting, recognition for it or getting paid properly for it. So also just weigh up, whether it's worth it pursuing clients instead of just jumping at every client. I know it's tough. You can't really nitpick much. And also when it comes to charging your fees, I've always said this before. I have nothing against any advisor that charges fees. I just believe on the basis of the rules that you must charge with. And I know that's obviously difficult in the beginning, but what I used to do that Dirk made me realize, I was even to get more clients, and it was like a silly way when I think about it now, to attract more clients, I was even discounting my fees to attract clients. And not only from Dirk, but I had another one-on client that's a really good high-quality client, and he's working with me for the last couple of years. And he was one of the first clients that also opened my eyes, where he said, why are you discounting your fees? Because from my point of view, if you are discounting your fees just to sign me, that means you're discounting the value that you're adding to me. So for any other client, would actually not to be negative, but it would let me see your value on a lower level because you're discounting your worth. So I would just say that. And then lastly, just when it comes to building a client base, look at like, okay, it's changed a lot now, but look at like what majority of your industry is doing and then think of like, okay, what can I do better? So a clear example I used to do to build my client base when I started so many years ago, I tried to cold call for 2 days. That was a big thing back then. Everyone was like, go on Gumtree or go through a phone book and just cold call 100 people a day. And somehow your numbers will stack up. And it was very discouraging to a lot of people, and that's why they left. And what I started doing back then, which is probably overkill now, is I used to actually say like, why would anyone trust me with their money when they haven't seen me in person or know what I look like over the phone? So I would go to expos and things like that, set up a store, nothing salesy, but more of like a Q&A or ask me anything. And back then, newspapers and media used to still be quite popular or trendy. So I used to use those headlines as talking points with clients and then have a lucky draw. And then that would be more of a warm lead when I follow up with them the next day. So just think of different ways to demonstrate your value, especially with social media technology now, versus what a lot of your peers are doing in the industry.
Yeah, I think Russell, you touched on the whole fee thing. That's a discussion we're not going to have now. But I think as long as you're comfortable in doing what you have to do, I've been through it from upfront commissions right to what we call AUM fees, and I've looked at flat fees. You've just got to decide what you're going to do and then stick with it. I'll give you an example. I've got a client when I started working with almost 20 years ago who was earning 5,000-6,000 Rand a month. Okay, he's still a client. He's worth well over 100 million now. So that relationship has just grown over time. So you never know what, I just believe in this business, you can grow with people. So you can't be looking for your perfect client all the time, because maybe for me, a perfect client is someone who you're able to build a trusting relationship with, that you get on well with, because you would rather work with people that you get on with. If you don't get on with someone, it doesn't matter how much money they've got, it's not going to be a happy relationship. I want to ask someone who I know has battled with this a bit. Let me have a look. I know there are lots of you. Yondela, can you share? I know that you've had your is it your Friday rants, and a lot of it has been about your frustration in trying to get through to people that you can help but aren't necessarily maybe ready for what you're able to do. If you could share some of that with us, your experience around there.
Yeah. Well, I think nothing has changed fundamentally. I'm still really stressed, and I don't know. It feels like I'm climbing a mountain, and it's just like a slippery slope. And yeah, I don't know. I think I find myself, especially in like the sales environment, where people are always pushing sales, and the easy thing to do is to go do a presentation at a government department and have people like thinking that you're like the best person in the world, and then there's 5 other insurers next to you giving the same presentation, and then people are just picking and choosing who to speak to. But I've taken a more personal approach to things. I've realized that like I can't speak product, like I'm really bad at speaking product, because a vast majority of the people that I want to service have been sold products, and too many products. And the more I speak to, the pain that people are dealing with. Like, for example, I've realized one of my value propositions recently, when I speak to young Black professionals, is there's a dynamic in the Black family that exists. Is if you're a professional, let's say you're a doctor, you're a young Black doctor, and you're 27. What happens is you become somewhat of a head of the family, where the family now wants you to speak in meetings. They want you to contribute to lobola negotiations, but that's not your forte, because you're just a 27-year-old, and now you need to be in a space where you're speaking to very old people in the family. And I've realized that it's something that I've been helping some of my young, Black professional clients to understand, is that the dynamic exists, and this is how you navigate this dynamic. And it's been an eye-opener for me. I've realized that I'm not doing a lot of financial planning for them in that instance, but I'm giving a lot of, maybe coaching, trying to navigate this dynamic environment they find themselves in. But I've also realized that people just don't want to listen. They don't trust me enough. I'm too young. I'm too Black. What do I know? So it's just frustrating, Dirk, honestly.
Yeah. So look, Yondela, I mean, I get you, and I mean, this isn't going to help, but I saw a stat the other day, and I mean, I know this is true, even though I don't need to verify it, that this is a very, very tough industry to make it in. Okay, and the numbers are something like 1 in 100 are going to make it. I mean, that's irrelevant of your qualification. You could have a CFP, a CFA, a doctorate. You can be whatever. There's a certain tenaciousness that you need in this industry to make it. So I think like that, you know, the cold calling, I've done that. I mean, I went through the yellow pages. You guys won't even know what that is. It's a directory of businesses, and I would drive to Utenake and Dispatch every night of the week, cold calling. So it's not nice. You guys don't want to hear that, but that is the truth. And then also, Yandeli, you know, clients don't know what we do. The majority of our industry does sell product. So when you come there as a lifestyle financial planner, it's Greek to them. I mean, normal product talk is Greek to them. And I think sometimes we try to, you know, we go to a knife fight with a bazooka. You know, we don't need that bazooka, even though you've got it in your arsenal because you qualified, you experienced, and you try and do it the right way. So sometimes I think we just got to meet the clients where they are, which is sometimes a product. Sometimes they need life cover or they need a savings plan or whatever. And then as that relationship grows, you are able to develop, you know, the kind of relationship that you would like in the long run. So I think you need to understand that, you know, sometimes you just need to meet them where they are. And if you feel like a bit of a product salesman, it's not the end of the world. You know, your task can then be to, over time, educate that client and bring them to a point where they understand the real value that you can add. But not everyone's going to be ready for it on day one. So I know it doesn't help, but the fact is this industry is really hard. But I can tell you that, you know, if you stick at what you do, eventually it will start making sense. Has anyone else got any more comments around there about building a client base?
Dirk, I can maybe say one or two things.
Thanks.
A lot of what Russell was talking about made me laugh in the background because I went through such a similar experience. The expo talk, you know, trying to get yourself out there, trying to get a couple of people to jot their details down on a piece of paper so that you can somehow, you know, start getting clients somewhere, because I'll never forget that. I'm sure a lot of the others on this group may have experienced that. Network 250. I'm not sure if that will ring any bells, but when you get hired and you get asked to sort of draw a tree of your network, you know, family, friends, school, clubs, and all of a sudden you start coming up with all these names and stupidly or very naively at least, you give this form back and they say, right, well, those are your, you know, potential clients. And it hit me hard then that I realized, okay, now you've actually got to go out and approach these people, which is often extremely uncomfortable. And like you said, Dirk, in the beginning, you know, you wet behind the ears, no experience. You come in here as a young qualified, maybe not qualified, depending on what you've gotten into the job with. But that's also counting against you, whether you believe it or not. I know if you are retiring and you look at someone on the other end of the table to put your retirement funds with, it's just one of those things. You're going to feel more comfortable with someone who's been in the industry for 20 or 30 years as opposed to someone who may have all the potential in the world, but they've only been there for 1 or 2. So that is difficult. And just speaking to Yandela's comments as well, it's just listening. It's tough. This is the beginning. It's so disheartening when you have all this sort of ambition in the world to try and make it. You're passionate about financial planning. You have an interest in economics or whatever it may be. That's part of the job. And then you realize that counts for very little in the beginning to your survival. So you've got, like you said, Dirk, those stats. The stats that I remember is that I started at the Big Blue machine, and they would hire 20 guys, and they would hope that 2 out of the 20, the way they described it was like a Velcro war. There used to be these fun nights at some of the schools where you jump on a trampoline with like a Velcro suit and you would either stick on the wall or you wouldn't. I don't know if people remember that, but that's the best way I can think of this industry, is if you take 20 people, the life assurers knew of the 20 they throw in a Velcro suit on the wall, only 2 of those guys are going to stick and the rest are going to fall out. For those of you who are still trying to stick, you know, I would just say do your best to try and stick it out. I'll just quickly tell you what happened with me, and hopefully it gives you a bit of hope. But for the other 18, they will fall off. And if that's some of the people in this group, I can tell you that you will always look back at whether fondly or with negative connotation or whatever, you will never not use that sales skill. I know sales is the negative word, but the reality is, if you're starting a plumbing business or anything else, you have to have clients. You've got to go and get people to make money. So the reality is, the grass isn't greener going to another occupation, but the life skills you learn from just interacting with people is like invaluable. I still to this day look back at just those basic skills and how much value it adds to just day-to-day life. Yeah, unfortunately, in life, the scoreboard counts. So whether it's sales at a big machine, like the life assurers, I can tell you nothing sat more sort of badly with me than the way they ran those sales meetings or targets, for example. But you know, we all recognize there's an element of that unfortunately is quite important. If you then take that, if you go independent, you realize yourself, it's not the insurer that's putting the target on your back, it's you've got to now survive. So I know Dirk's explained his sort of career path over time, and you will evolve, but if you can just stick it out. So what I did was I did as long as I could to get some experience. And if you can find your way into a business that is already established, I think it's the first step to not losing good quality talent, you know, out of the industry into something else where that sales or leads or, you know, prospecting is taken off the table for you, and you can get into a business that you know, you can hone your skills, build your confidence, and not leave the industry. Whether you slowly start up a client base yourself, or then eventually take that knowledge and skills to go on your own. If you've got what it takes, you just got to keep fighting to try and survive in this industry, because the numbers are against you. But it's just one of those careers that if you can break through to survive, you know, like Russell's saying in the beginning, I know I've been there as well, and it's still a part of our business, where a lot of those clients that you've picked up along the way are not exactly your ideal clients. But I think what Dirk said is, if you can work with people you like, you know, typically those people will see value in what you do. I've got often the smaller clients, they appreciate very little of what you do. It's often the bigger people who, or sometimes a little bit older, 40, 45 or whatever, who've had some life experience, had bad experiences with either any service provider, lawyers, accountants, advisors, that are actually better to take on, because they realize, oh wow, this guy gets back to me. The stuff he's doing for me is fantastic. You know, so you just have to manage those sort of relationships along the way. But if you can, all I can say is, I'm sure the people on this group are here for a reason. They're passionate. They just got to do their best to try and hang in there as long as they can. But they'll never lack the entrepreneurship skills that you'll pick up. I think it's a big part of the industry.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I think it's really true. And I mean, yeah, and so we spend a bit of time on the subject, but if I look at the 5 points that ChatGPT put out, I think these first two are probably the most important and the hardest. So the next one is balancing your work-life experience. And I think, you know, Russell, what you've said, Simon, what you said, and what I've shared about how, you know, we started in this business is there is no work-life balance. You just work your ass off. There's no thing about, you know, I deserve to live a life. Let me tell you, if you're going to make it, Yondela, I know you're working really hard too, and I'm sure most of you guys are. It's like anything, you know. I got a client who's got his daughter's a CA. She's working for a big audit firm in Cape Town. She's been told that for the next 6 months she's working 6 days a week. Saturday it's from 8 till 3, and on Sundays it's 8 till 1. Okay, she gets paid. I think it's around 25, but this is in Cape Town, so we know how scary Cape Town is cost-wise. But this is not unusual. Okay, there are many young potential lawyers and accountants who just don't make it because, I mean, so I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying this is the truth. Is these guys, because we like to compare ourselves to professionals, don't we? Okay, but the reality is that when you're starting off in this industry, there is no work-life balance. And I think if we look at some of the legends in the industry, they've accepted that from the start. Unfortunately, some of them never get out of that, and they retire and die very quickly because their work has become their life. So I think the work-life balance is something that we strive to later on in our lives, but certainly up front, it's not there. I mean, if it's there, then you probably should be asking yourself, maybe I could be doing more. And I think again, you know, the comparison where we want to be professional. Personally, I think we're better than accountants and lawyers, and I'm not upsetting anyone who's a lawyer or accountant. All I'm saying is, Frank, all I'm saying is that and Ferdy, all I'm saying is that I think what we do is a lot more personal. I'm not saying that if you're an attorney or an accountant, you don't care. I'm not saying that at all. But it's not necessarily a prerequisite for the job. If you're a financial planner, you don't have to care. If you're going to be a proper lifestyle financial planner, you cannot do your job unless you do care. It's just something extra that we have, that we need to have. Barry Amani calls it the care gene. And I think that's important. But yeah, on the work-life balance thing, I think it's something, because success comes to so few in this industry. It's something that we just need to do. Anyone want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, not even being a financial planner, I also had, you know, when we were building our business, or I was building my business, I would work most nights till 1, 2 in the morning, and sometimes be up 6, 7 o'clock the next morning to try and get to meetings, to just get in front of people. And a lot of those hours that I was working was all unpaid. It was just me trying to create portfolio, trying to establish connections with people, so that when I went to meetings, you know, I felt like I've got all this stuff that I can bring to add value. And it was like that for years. It wasn't just, you know, the first 6 months. And I only niched into working with financial advisors 5 years into doing what we were doing. And that was after I'd had about 5 or 6 financial advisors as clients for several years already. And I was like, wow, I really like working with these guys. There's a gap in this market. I can do some good stuff here. And it resonated with me deeply. It wasn't just, oh, I can make money off financial advisors. It was, these guys need a hand, and it's right up my alley. It's stuff I love doing. It's content I enjoy creating. So that was how my journey went. And it's, you know, when I say to advisors, you know, build your business in these certain ways and the tools that we use, I'm doing it on the back of, it's exactly how I built my own business. And, you know, Dirk, as you said, only later on do you start to get more of a work-life balance. You know, that I think is a system error of the capitalist system, that we are all driven to push, no matter what industry we're in. And, you know, that's why I think it's so important to connect with your why, because if you love what you're doing, you will push. If you hate what you're doing, you're not going to push, and you're going to be one of those 18 guys who fall off the Velcro board and go find a different Velcro board to stick on. And that's okay.
Thanks, Tim. Russell?
Yes, I think also I just wanted to add on with the work-life balance. Well, firstly, I just want to add on to a point from what Simon mentioned, is that in your years with clients, when you work with clients, just 2 things there is that, firstly, don't see any client experience or engagement as bad, you know, because looking back, I'll also say I used to work for the big green big machine in the beginning, my first 2 years. And yeah, I grinded my butt off, eh? Like I used to come in at 8 in the morning and then leave at like 8 in the evening. And that's the one thing you learn over time, is that it's difficult, especially in this industry. You work your butt off, and your mind, you find it hard for your mind to like switch off, basically, because you're always thinking of what you can do more. And to Simon's point as well, I think also coming back to the client engagement, what I would say that you will learn a lot that they don't teach you in varsity, you know. And I had that same perspective. I was like, I got the qualifications, I got everything. I'm like, I thought I'm going to ease into it, and then boom, like I have a successful practice, you know. Obviously I was wrong. But you learn a lot of sales experience and people skills that they don't teach you in varsity or from any tertiary education. And that's so valuable. It doesn't mean, I think there's a negative perception around sales. It doesn't mean you have to be forced to sell policies or that's going to be your why or, your passion or your thing that you're going to do in the industry. But if you can move from that to knowing that you're selling yourself, that adds so much more value to a client. Because I always say to clients, I said, like, if you offer a product, you don't actually need me. You can do it online now. So now it's more of like a client's buying you to have you in their corner and the value or the human element they add to you. And what I also picked up from client experiences, whether it's good or bad, is see it as practice for yourself. Because for me personally, when I started industry, I wasn't really that sociable or very people orientated in the beginning. I literally, my first few meetings, I kid you not, I followed the 6-step financial planning process to a T like a robot. So when I would have the meeting, I would go through it and it was so stiff. So when you engage more with clients, you start refining that process more towards, okay, how do I work it into my process? How do I connect better with the client? And you actually find that you tend to improve your people skills so much more and connect with the client over time. So just see engagement with clients, whether it's good or bad, as practice for yourself. And then two, the work-life balance thing. Yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to say. You never stop working, but the moment, like to Tim's point, you find your why and if eventually you start seeing as lifestyle financial planners, you make such a huge impact on a person's life. That kind of shifts your focus of, I don't have to do this every day. I get to do this every day, that positive mindset shift. And I would say, look, we like compared to, and also it's not, throwing stones or discrediting other professionals and, employed individuals. When you work as a lifestyle financial planner and as an entrepreneur, aside from finding your why, you don't have a 50-50 type of work-life balance, but I would say personally, you need to find some form of balance or outlet that helps you cope or get you through like your workday as well, because obviously you can't work straight out 24 hours. So you have to find some form of hobby to balance it out. For me, so for some of you that know, for me it's like the gym, which is like iron therapy, but it can be any type of hobby just to kind of give you that break, because we're not robots. You need to also take a break now and then as well.
So Russell, it's girls as well now. Anyway.
Yeah.
Frank, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Dirk. Yeah, I've just got one or two things to say. So, just listening to that guy who's like quite new in the industry, I think it's quite important. It's crucially important that that you as an advisor identify the clients that are right for you. So there's no point in going in front of a 55-year-old who's about to retire. If you 28, 30, you need to go to clients that you can actually relate to. That's quite important too, because you don't want to feel like that sort of like an imposter, and that's just a bad way to start. And then also you've got to take ownership here. The one thing in this business, and this is only my own experience, the one thing that you are only you responsible for. You can outsource all sorts of other functions. The only thing you're responsible for is client acquisition. You've got to take that completely on your own, because nobody's going to help you. And it's even with cold calling, even in the beginning. I mean, it's even then you get to referrals, and it's all still up to you. And I mean, as we know, you don't get clients, you don't have a business. And work-life balance, yeah, there's that's. I mean, my wife will tell you that just doesn't happen. But you can develop a template that you do take time. I mean, I try and take time for my family and rugby, to watch it on TV and blah blah blah. But I mean, I find my way of relaxing, and I do the gym as well. But the balance is there's no set balance, because it just hits you from all sorts of angles at the weirdestly unexpected times, because you give a damn. That's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah, I think the hands up, which is great. One thing I wanted to say is, I'm very lucky. I've got a wife who really understands. She doesn't understand why. She just knows I'm passionate about the industry. So when we go on holiday, my books are all about the industry. I read about it. I'm listening to podcasts, and I really think that that has to kind of be in you. I mean, this is more than a profession. It's kind of it's a life that you choose. You know, it's like someone said early on, Russell said, I think, you choose to do this. You have to have that attitude that it's not a job. It's not just a career. It becomes who you are as a person. It doesn't mean you're looking at everyone as if they're a client. It just means that you see what we do in everyday life and experiences that are around you. And one more thing, I'll add it later. Sorry, Tim, you've got your hand up.
Just a quick thought. Something Derek Smerenberg always used to say was, is the client or is the client's money the client? And I think my perception of the industry when guys are looking for clients early on is they're chasing the money, which is why they often go with older individuals, because they think, oh, they've probably got a bigger book of investment opportunities. They're probably close to retirement. That means I can do whatever you guys do around that time. That is clearly going to make some money. Rather than saying, as Frank was saying, who are the other 30-year-olds in my life who need to make good, sound financial decisions? And then I've learned, and I know this is very easy to say in having been in business now for almost 12 years, but I've learned that there's always money available. It's not about the cost, and Russell, you were talking about discounting earlier. It's not about the cost, it's about the priority. And if people are going to, people spend money on whatever they spend money on, and we are so good at pointing fingers at everyone else saying, oh, why'd they spend on that? Why'd they go buy that? And, because they've got money and they're making their choices. And if you are able to position yourself as a choice someone wants to make, doesn't matter how much they earn, they will spend money on you because they value the difference you're going to make in their life. And that then comes back again to who are you pitching to? What does your value proposition look like? What is your, all of these things are very, very closely and integrated and related to each other.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yondela?
Yeah, so I think what Frank said was actually pretty interesting about, the client acquisition is your baby. It's something I'm really working on, and like people talk a lot about your ideal client, right? And I've always said, I really want, I see obviously a big lack in the Black professional space, and not even just professional, but just in the Black market in itself. Anyway. And my problem with that is, so for example, if I'm speaking to, let's say, young Black lawyers, for them, the idea of financial planning or thinking for the future is so far removed from their any school of thought, because they're either first generation and they have no sense of, the future. There's no one in their family that has ever planned for retirement. No one has a retirement in their homes. So and I guess my biggest concern is many of them, they just live for the weekend. There's this insatiable appetite for young Black people to spend so much money. And to my surprise, a lot of young white people as well do actually that, where they're spending a lot of money in weekends and they're just drinking and having a good time. And I'm really struggling because I'm thinking about, like, for example, Dirk, you said you have a client who started with 5,000 Rand 20 years ago, and they were your client. Now, for example, I have probably maybe, let's say, 6 young people who are actually my clients. But the rest, they are, I don't even call them my clients. They're like people I've transacted with because I felt like I needed to put food on the table, but like when I look at my client list and I look at people that I really want to grow with and people I really truly want to work with, it's just those 6 people. And the people I really want to work with, they just want to live for the weekend because they don't know any better. And so being this advocate and being the teacher in the background becomes so frustrating because there's no, I don't want to say immediate results or reward, but it's as if, like I said, you're climbing this slippery mountain, and it's as if, and the problem, I guess, in the industry, it's as if everyone else is doing well. Simon is doing well, Russell is doing well, and I ask myself late at night, I'm sitting at the office at 11, I'm like, so what am I doing wrong? is it my approach when I speak to these young people? Like, and it's a back and forth between who I want to be and who I need to be. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, Yandela does, and I just want to say thank you for being so brutally honest. And you know, as I said, I don't have the answers, but one thing I can tell you, I can sense your passion for what you do, and you've just got to keep on going. You've got to keep on knocking on doors. I told you, when I say we've got 85 families we work, that's after 30 years. That's less than 3 a year. So that's 6. You're doing pretty well. But I'm slow. But I'm telling you, if you not everyone is just going to you know. And what's different is in my generation, guys sold cars, fixed dishwashers, and then they sold for Sanlam or Southern Life or Old Mutual as well. The industry you guys are entering is unfortunately it's changed, but not that much. And you guys are going in, you consciously choosing financial planning as a career. You're studying it as a BCom financial planning or whatever. You know, we didn't do that. I did my CFP 10 years into the industry because I thought it was a good idea, and thank God I did it then, because I don't think I'd pass it now. But you've just got to stick at what you're doing, and I think don't take everything too personally. And you got to meet your clients where they are, and certainly in the black market, which is huge, I can understand that there are many people who live for the weekend. I can tell you, in the market I've grown up in, most people live for the weekend, and that's why more than 90% of the people in this country can't retire properly, because they live for the weekend. But just carry on with what you're doing, Ben.
Yeah, so yeah, some maybe tips that might help Yandelo, just from stuff that I've learned as I've gone through. And I think one of the biggest lessons I learned, I'm sure everybody's done it when they're all at a braai, and you know, always you're meeting new people, and someone always says, "Oh, so what do you do?" And someone says, "Oh, I'm this," and they ask, "What do you do?" You say, "A financial planner," and you sort of turn around, and there's always like no one left at the braai. You're kind of standing there by yourself, you know. So I think always it's better to, because like you say, people don't know exactly what we do. People have always got that stain of the industry hanging over us. So try and reframe that slightly. So it also depends who you're talking to. So I know, like a lot of the clients that I work with, what are their issues? So when people ask me what do I do, I'll reply and just say, you know how you kind of just get through all your money every month, and you just realize that it's all disappeared and you haven't got any left, and you're kind of, you know, not sure where it went, and you know there's so much more you want to do with it. And they say, yeah. So I help people to actually live their dreams and unlock the potential that they have from their earnings. Then they're like, wow, that's pretty interesting. Like, I want to hear more about that. And they'll ask you follow-up questions. You know, with older people, for example, I say, you know how you lay in bed wondering if you got enough for retirement, and if are you going to be okay? And they say, yeah. And I say, well, I help people to create a plan so they know exactly where the money is going to go, when it'll run out, etc., etc. So then they're all interested and say, well, can you tell me more? Can you do this? Can you? And then then they start asking you questions. So I think it's a lot easier than to reframe it than just saying I'm a financial planner. Kind of explain a bit like what you do, if that makes sense. And then the other thing, yeah, like you say, a lot of people live for the weekend or live for the now. They don't see retirement, especially in the 30s, 20s, 30s. They're not thinking about retirement at all. But we can help them towards some of the other goals and start getting them onto the process and start getting into the habit of saving money. If you talk about retirement, they are going to switch off. I had a client recently that I'm busy working with, and she was just worried about having 4 months worth of expenses next year in case she doesn't have her job. And so she just said, she said to me, "I just know I need to have." And then I took her through the process that we work with, the process that we trust. And so in that, I asked her about her goals and things. And so we talked about travel overseas. She said, "I never thought that would be possible. So I've never thought about traveling overseas." We spoke a bit more, and for her 30th birthday, which is in 2 years' time, she'd love to go to Paris. So we sat down now, and we've co-created a plan that she will be able to go to Paris for her birthday. She'll be able to go overseas every 2 years thereafter. She is just blown away now at the potential that has been unlocked with her salary and just using her money better. And so obviously we brought up retirement a little bit, but I haven't put a massive focus on that because we're focusing on just getting into the habit of saving and working towards those goals. So I don't know if that's just helpful, is trying to focus on the now. And also, I mean, she doesn't quite live for the weekend, but she lives for shopping, you know, like she's always buying new clothes and this and that, but she now realizes the trade-off. And I said to her, what do you want better? Do you want to go to Paris, or do you want the clothes? And she's like, I want to buy the clothes in Paris. I said, well, then let's get you to Paris first, and then you can make a plan. But she's starting to see now, and she's thinking about where she spends her money and what does it mean for her when she's spending the money. So she came in with one idea, and she's left with, 20 ideas. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, no, very, very much, Ben. Thanks a lot. And again, I just want to say that, Yondela, it's also about meeting people where they are. If I walk into the pro shop, and I'm walked into the pro shop for a reason, I'm looking at a certain club, or if the guy starts showing me balls or tees or whatever, which I'm not interested in buying at that time. But if he takes me, he says, what do you want? So I'm looking at a putter, and he takes me to the putters. It's a good chance he's going to make a sale because he's giving me what I want. Down the line, I'm going to need all those other things. But starts with that initial need. And even if you're feeling a bit salesy, as long as in your heart you know where the journey, because financial planning is a verb. It's not something we do. It's something that's ongoing. And if we know that we can, and some people will get to that journey quicker because they're ready for what you have to offer now. Other people will take longer. And I think we just need to understand that. Simon, you got your hand up.
Yeah, so many true comments from everyone who's just spoke. Like a lot of the things I jotted down here just to mention, you said, and that was before you said that. It's amazing. So I just want to reach out again to Yondela just to say, I can resonate. And I think that doesn't even help you now, because I remember when I was in my sort of deep pit of thinking, why on earth did I get into this industry? Nothing anyone else really says to you at the time to stick it out and all these things. I don't know if this will resonate with other people, but it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you now. Maybe down the line when you can reflect back on those comments, you'll be able to say that. But it doesn't, unfortunately, make your position easier now. Just one of the things you said, talking to people and just feeling like it goes over their head. I can promise you, Dirk will tell you the same thing. There are people you still talk to now where that penny drop moment hasn't hit them, and you can see it in a meeting. So no matter how much you say to them right then, they are not ready for it. And it's so frustrating, because when you're in the position of someone starting out, like you say, you still have to operate. And unfortunately, what you can't control is the other person on the table. You can give them the best advice. Your intention is as best you can touch how you can help them, and they just don't want it. And indirectly that affects you because nothing happens. So I can seriously relate to where you are. Where we sit maybe in a more established business, or a few years on the line, wherever your career path has kind of led you, whether that's building up a client base to now get to the point where you're sitting across the table from someone and they don't want to listen, it doesn't nearly affect you as much, because you can kind of carry on. Your need is not reliant on them doing something, so you can move on. And when that person is then ready, at a later time, they come running back and they're now ready for it. It doesn't help you now, unfortunately, but I can tell you the theme of constant client education is always ongoing. I mean, one of the things I remember when Dirk was helping me a couple of years ago with his slides, both your initial meeting where you're not pitching for a client, but showing them how you operate, and they need to mutually agree with you if they want to work together. One of the things there is a section on not necessarily investor behavior alone, but it was that sort of principle, and that gets revisited every time you have a review. And it's because we are in front of this stuff every day, all day, and ingrained in us is all the numbers, the stats. We know what and why we need to help people do these things, but indirectly that live for the weekend feeling is human nature. So whether the demographics of your client will differ from one advisor to the other, you will, although there may be unique challenges in every different sort of type of client, there are these underlying human behavioral problems that we are trying to address, and it's not easy, and it doesn't really ever go away. I think it's just that beginning hindrance that you want to help, and they just don't want to listen. And then I still get it. on a daily basis. And whether it's an age thing, a lot of the younger people, I mentioned it earlier, often it's there. They need to have almost failed to then realize how important it is. And you can't necessarily teach that, and you certainly can't do it in a half an hour coffee meeting, the first hour or whatever. But when they are ready for it, typically, I think, they will come back to you if you do your upfront job properly. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Simon. I mean, and again, I think, people who are on this call, on this group, are here because they care, because they want to get better and they want to make a difference. And the problem with caring is we have feelings and we get hurt. So, if you here because you want to make money, if that's the reason, then it's probably not the right group for you. There probably are better groups. Not that you can't learn, but there will be better groups. But I think, part of having that care gene and part about caring is that we do take things personally. So when someone decides not to work with us or moves somewhere else, I promise you that deep down in your gut, you know that that client's not ideal for you, but it still hurts. And sometimes where you feel you can't get through to them. So it's got to come with the territory. And I think it's what someone said earlier on about, I think, Tim, about understanding your why is, if you're being driven by a deeper purpose, then you're just going to carry on going forward. But is it going to get easier? Yes. Is it always going to be easy? No. Are you going to get hurt? For sure, you're going to get hurt down the line. But it's just part of what we do because we care. Another thing that I just, a lot of, so let's again compare ourselves to professionals, lawyers, accountants. My brother's a top attorney in Cape Town. What did he do? He went and did his articles at a business in Pretoria, and then he moved to a big, oldest law firm in Cape Town, and he's now at the top of his game there. What he did is he joined a big company. And now, so if you look at successful lawyers or even accountants, they work for one of the big law firms or one of the big accounting firms. Okay, there are very few attorneys or accountants that work for themselves, that have their own little business. They are there, but it's much, much harder to do it that way. Now, the problems here is I think a lot of youngsters, Russell, don't take this personally, who want to like steer their own ship and run out on their own. And it is doable, but it's really, really hard. Trust me, it gets really lonely down the line, and I don't believe that it's the way to go. The flip side of that coin is that there are very few businesses that will take in youngsters and have a career path for them. Okay, most of them are going to be your corporates, and we know in corporates it does come down to the numbers and sales. So, if you are in those, it's trying to find the balance between keeping your regional manager happy and then still, not selling yourself out for, to be a salesperson and not a lifestyle planner. But I think for youngsters in the group, you want to keep a lookout for businesses, established businesses that you can join. They may not be perfect. Simon, you joined your father-in-law's business, certainly wasn't a lifestyle planning practice, but I know you're changing all of that. And you've gone from kind of being an appy to running the show. And so, and you don't have to own everything. It's not about that, but you can build a career. My brother doesn't own his firm. He's one of the partners. A lot of us have this obsession with ownership. Being part of something which is bigger than yourself is very special as well. We can't change the world on our own. So I think, look out for businesses that are maybe not perfect, but you can join. And I know that a lot of people on the call have done that. And sometimes it can be frustrating, but if you're really good at what you do, eventually the cream's going to rise to the top. But it's not going to happen in a year or 2 or 3. It's going to take time, but eventually you will. If you're so good at, there's that book, Be So Good That They Can't Ignore You. I forget, something like that. But but going the corporate route as opposed to on your own is not impossible, but it is a lot harder. And then that also speaks to, because I want to keep on this subject, but the next point's about keeping up with regulatory changes, staying up to date with technology. Those two things are really much easier when you're doing it in a bigger business. When you've got, a group of planners that are sharing your compliance costs to have a proper compliance officer, or, you've got someone in our group, in our team, Ben is like the tech guy. So like we'll throw Ben at anything that's to do with technology. You know, you've got different skills. So a lot of that, again, if you're doing it on your own, it becomes really expensive and really difficult, because you're being a financial planner, but you're also having to run a business, and you're having to be an HR person, and you're having to do all kinds of things as well. So don't underrate the benefit of joining a team. And when you do join a team, also understand you're not going to own it in 5 years' time, because that's you know, if you did, then something unplanned or unexpected would have happened. Okay. Anyone else want to add to those first 2 points, or on the subject that we're chatting about? All right. Okay, let's move on then. So I think I'd like to jump to the 5th point, which is managing client expectations. And I think this again speaks to around stuff that we've been talking about. Again, clients have got no idea what we do. We call ourselves advisors, brokers, financial advisors, financial planners, lifestyle planners, because we want to position ourselves in a certain way. I want to be a lifestyle financial planner, but I know that it probably confuses our clients, because they've got no idea what an advisor does, let alone a lifestyle financial planner. And it speaks to the fact that clients' expectations generally are completely different to what we would think they are, because this industry has done a very good job in making people feel, the man in the street feels stupid. So you will meet very successful businessmen who will go to talks, all these investment talks that people have, and they get an economist out or a fund manager, and they talk about the rand and the markets and this and Russia and everything, and it's like all very interesting, but it serves to make our clients, keep them in a box and make them, confirms that they actually are not that clever, they're stupid, and they need to work with someone like that. So the industry is educating the general public that, almost out of fear, that they need to work with some form of an advisor because they're not capable of handling their own affairs. So I think where I'm going to with this is that we need to first understand, when we're managing clients' expectations, we need to first understand, I think, where they are. So what do they think that we do? So not put on them what we want them to think we do, but like, what do they think we do? And then slowly kind of explain it. And they're not going to grasp what a lifestyle financial planner does in a day. You know, I heard what Ben said, and I agree with him. But even then, people don't grasp it because, but do you work with money? Do you invest money? Because like, you're going to help, you sound more like a coach or a life planner or whatever. And I think this is also where, if we are going to pretend to be investment experts, so, you know, other titles, wealth manager, investment expert. I mean, do you have a CFA? No. Well, then how can you be in it? And if you do have a CFA, have you got a research team? No. Okay, so how can you be a research? How can you be a financial expert? So I think we need to keep it simple for clients with their expectations. It's worked very, very well for me, where 23 years ago we started working with investment funds that were CPI plus targeted. That was it. And 99.9% of our clients' funds are in those funds. They've more than done what they needed to do over the last 20 odd years. And so our discussion around the market and returns is very, very simple. You need to target inflation plus 3 or 5 or whatever it may be. And if we do this, and you know, the one is not high risk, but the one's a high return versus a low return versus high risk and low risk. So I think, you know, we need to simplify the language that we use for our clients, and we need to speak with intent. So we need to understand, even right now, this is the kind of language that we're going to use, and then just consistently do that. The reason we built our process with PowerPoint slides and everything, a lot of that is client education, is to teach them the things we want them to know. We want them to think about. And when we have our review meetings, we bring up those slides and we explain why they got to beat inflation. We explain what a real return is, and we explain that no one controls the markets. Those are the things you need to educate them, not that you're going to pick a brilliant fund for them, and they're going to do so well. So I think simplify it, teach the clients the language that you want to be using throughout that relationship. Okay, any comments on that, guys? Russell, I know you're going to comment on this because I know you're an investment expert.
Yeah, I would just say from experience, don't spread yourself too thin, eh? I mean, I think I've experienced this as well in the last couple of years, is that yes, it's good to know about what's happening in the markets and the financial news to stay current about changes and things like that. So if clients bring up in conversation, you're able to give your professional opinion on the matter. But I would say be careful not getting too involved with fund management or picking funds and stocks. Even though, I majored or I did specialize in investments, I've kind of gone less and less away from the responsibility of picking funds and all that. And we also follow a strategy approach now with a lot of our portfolios for clients. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to the points or the basis of like, you can't really control what happens in the market, and you can't even time the market. So you can only control the factors that are on your hands, which, I've always said to clients, like tax efficiency, costs, time, diversification, and also more importantly, client expectations is a big thing. I always work with clients of mine after doing a lot of coaching education, which is going to be an ongoing process with your clients. I always work with the worst case scenario rather, so that we over provide or we make extra provision. Because the moment you tell a client, and this was one of the mistakes I made in my early years, the moment you show a client a fun fact sheet and you say, well, on average or on the highest note performs 10%, that client's going to expect 10% growth in their portfolio every year. And then they've forgotten about your whole explanation about your markets go up and down. You have to be invested for so many years to see a rolling returns. They forget all of that. They just think, okay, I'm going to see 10% in my portfolio every year. And the moment you tie your value proposition to just performance, that's how they start evaluating every year when they have meetings with you of like, okay, are you actually doing a good job as my advisor or my planner or not? And then they start missing all the other intangible value adds you add, whether it's the coaching, helping them make more informed decisions, which adds so much more tremendous value than just picking funds or stocks. So I would just say that's the danger of like you being too focused on funds and investments with the client, especially when it comes to performance, because you can't control the market. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we've learned to do really well is everything starts with a plan. So we first get to understand, know the clients. We help them build a plan, which we know is going to change. But anything that we do, we go back to the plan, and the plan will then say to the client, well, you should or you shouldn't actually do that, or you can or you can't do that. So I think that's really, and the plan, I think it's like you said, it really doesn't have to be a retirement plan. I mean, it is very difficult. Alex always says to me, speaking to someone in their early 20s or 30s, talking about retirement, they can't see that far. I mean, I'm 55, I can't see that far. So, I mean, I get that, but we know it is important. So we need to take some steps towards that. And all we're doing is we're actually making sure that at some point someone can stop work if they want to stop work, because a lot of people will, and a lot of people also enjoy carrying on what they're doing. So yeah, I think be quite specific about what you're trying to do with clients and helping them know what to expect, and taking all that other noise out. It's like I get emails all the time about the investment forum. So I'm not saying it's wrong to go to these investment forums, but I mean, I went to them and I went to meet the managers, and you're literally running around like a chicken without a head, going from room to room, and it's a beauty parade. I mean, we've all done it. It's a beauty parade. Everyone's had the best returns. Like everyone at that meet the managers thing has had the best returns. Everyone's got the new investment theme. It's just, it's impossible. We know it's impossible. So if you're going to put all your focus over there, that's not going to make you money. And if it is, you might win some clients because you impress them with what you talk about, but deep down, you're actually not adding any value. And I would vouch to say that you're probably going to be detracting value as opposed to adding it. Yeah.
If I can add something there quickly before we move on to a point, a big thing I've kind of learned over the last 3 years currently is, and I know it would take some time for you to kind of dig it in with the client, and it doesn't mean you have to kind of establish immediately, because like Dirk said, you use the example of retirement. The intention or purpose could change over time, or they could specify, get more specific over time as they work more with you. But like when it comes to like say investing, or most of the goals, try and find, or when you speak to a client, find the intent or purpose behind why they want to invest. You know, you with a lot of younger clients, the simple thing they come and tell me a lot, or most of us deal with, is like, oh, I want to get R1 million, or I want to be wealthy. And then you can always flip it around and say, okay, if I could give you that R1 million today, what's it going to give you? You know, because at the end of the day, it's money in a sense, but like there's always a deeper meaning, a purpose behind it. And what I found compared to like my earlier years, if you don't establish that purpose or that intent, you know, deeper goal for a client in the beginning, you're gonna do all the planning. You're gonna build this beautiful plan for the client. The client says, yes, I'll commit to it. And then there's so many incidences along the way where the client will detract from the plan because they haven't fully like realized or established like what is the purpose of why I'm investing or growing towards, what's it going to give me back. And you'll get instances where clients want to withdraw, or they'll stick to the plan, and that's where you keep coming back. If you've established that purpose, going back to the plan and making them realize, oh, but if I withdraw money, then I'm going to have to work another year or a few years longer, things like that, you know. So that's also what I found very more important than just saying, okay, because I've also had with clients where like, if you don't follow the plan, I can give you the best investment in the world there is, but we still won't reach your goals because you're not following or sticking to the basic principles of the plan. You know?
Yeah, Ferdy, I see you made a few comments, and I understand where you're saying that it's, you know, when people want to invest, they want to know, they want to talk about that, and I get that. But in my experience, if you start a relationship of talking about investment, it's very difficult to move on to lifestyle. And that is why our process has been developed, and that's why it works so well, is we just say, listen, I'm the expert here, just listen to me, trust me on this, and let's go through the process. The reality is that if a client isn't going to be prepared to spend a bit of time doing that, then, you know, they're probably not that serious about their money. But certainly it's you know, you letting the client lead the relationship and the conversation. If they walk in and they say, I want to know where you're going to invest this money, it's like, you know, like we basically say, and we honestly believe that unless we know the client first, we've got absolutely no right to talk to them about their money. We first need to know who they are, you know, and what they're trying to achieve with their life. If you're going to go the money route first, the returns, the market route first, it's very, very difficult to ever pull that conversation back to where you would like it to be. So I would say just, you know, just stick by your guns, but also, and Ferdy, I mean, I'm happy to help you with this, you know, in fact, I'm happy, or any of the guys who haven't been through our process, we can even set up another session where we go through that and we run you through it and how it works and all that, because it really, really is important. You need to have a process. You can't walk into a meeting not knowing what you want to get out of it at the end of the day. And it's not about necessarily what you want, but it's to get the client to start speaking about themselves and that. And it can't be about the markets. Okay, guys, anything else? I see we've got 10 minutes left. Anyone want to add anything? Okay, guys. I think let's leave it there. You know, the parts about keeping up with regulations and technology, I think they're subjects on their own. But I don't think they're anywhere near as important or difficult as what we've spoken about. Ryan, you have your hand up.
Good morning, Dirk, and good morning, everyone. Apologies for not being so interactive in the beginning of the session. I was mostly listening in. I just couldn't have my camera on and be so interactive then. But all that is now out of the way. May I just go back to one of the first points that was raised, and we spoke quite in depth about client acquisition. And I heard about how everybody had past experiences and what they did in terms of cold calling, explanations and the sorts. But I wanted to ask the question, how does everybody feel about purchasing a book from an existing advisor as a young financial planner? The reason why I ask this is because if there's an existing trust relationship with an advisor and the advisor is willing to entrust their process with another younger financial advisor, and there's an internal agreement between the two, is that not perhaps a more accelerated approach to building a client book than taking it the long haul over time? This is something I've been grappling with for quite some time. And I found a bit of success when you have a good relationship with an independent financial advisor or lifestyle financial advisor. They trust you, you trust them, they know what value you add. And maybe to everyone's earlier point, maybe the client doesn't suit you but can suit the younger financial advisor. And it doesn't mean that, I mean, we realistically we can't be servicing more than 120 clients. If you do, then you start to compromise on service quality, I believe. But if you are at capacity, but you do have a client that you want to service, that you can't really to your full capacity, is it not then worthwhile in the best interest of the client to consider perhaps an external financial advisor that you have a relationship with? And I've been grappling with the idea, how do you remunerate or create a compensation structure that benefits both parties, so that it's also sustainable for both your practice and the practice of a young financial advisor starting off? So yeah, I would love to just maybe explore those thoughts.
So Ryan, there's a lot there, and that's probably another good session. But I think it's a great way of doing it, and I think just on the language that we use, we talk about a book, and I've always battled with this thing, and we know that's what they do. These corporates come along, they're basically buying a book. They look at a broker and they say, well, you're old, but we want your clients. And I've always battled. I don't believe that you can sell a relationship, because that's really what you're doing. It's like, I've had enough of you. Yeah, I'm handing you over to this person. So I think you need to be careful there. But I think also it can definitely be done. It's a process we're going through in our business where, and there are a lot of very, very good reasons, for it, because if, me at 55, I've networked far more than Alex and Ben, and my peers around me are at a time in their life where they have money. So yeah, they are ideal clients. Let's not get away from it. We earn through them. That's what it is. But at the same time, you can bring the younger planners into those meetings, and they can start also taking over a lot of those relationships, especially in a day and age like today where they are qualified. So they are CFPs, they have years of working experience, they can add value. And the plan must never be specific to a planner, I believe. And that's why I think, again, it's the way we think. Even there, you're talking about buying a book, and we understand it goes to remuneration. And these are very, very tough things to answer, and they're different models. And I think you've got to just kind of work out what works for you. But it certainly is a really good, and that's why I said earlier, like as a young planner, get involved with the business. I see you with fiscal. Tell Gavin and Andrea, say, how's it? Gavin needs to spend more time surfing, and he needs to start handing over some relationships to you. I know you're still new there, but that's kind of where it should be going eventually. Is I've got to free up to play more golf at the links here and meet new potential clients, and Alex and Ben start slowly becoming the faces of those relationships. And it takes time. It won't happen overnight. It can't happen overnight, because at the end of the day, the client does have a relationship with Dirk originally. But what we try and do is make sure the client has a relationship with client care, with the business. So they get to meet Zoe and Alex and Ben, and they understand that we operate as a team. But I think that's where that's kind of the golden thread. That's where this industry should be going, instead of someone just accumulating clients and accumulating assets, holding on as long as they can. And why do older advisors not want to get out? Because all they do is they can just carry on servicing some of their best clients so well into their 70s, still make a hell of a lot of money. You know, are they doing a good job? Probably no. Probably no, because they're probably not doing lifestyle planning. As you say, more than 120 clients, you know, I really believe that probably, you know, 100 or a bit less is probably better, because we're dealing generally with families. You're not just dealing with an individual or a couple. But that's fine. I mean, I understand that if you've got good support systems, it can maybe be a bit better. But I think that is a great way of building a business, and it takes two things. It takes your older planners to be less greedy and to be open to that idea, and it takes your younger planners to be more patient and less greedy, to understand that they've also got to earn their stripes to get into that position. But if we're talking about what's best for clients, I honestly believe that is the best route to follow. And Barry's on this call, who's with a kind of a corporate, and some of you guys are with Advice Works, PWM, great organizations, but the jury is out because it is a corporate, and it's always how does it end? You know, if the game ends where eventually someone's going to sell a book, then unfortunately they're selling a book. If it's only about the money, if they're able to do that where the client's at the forefront and the client is going to benefit from that transaction, then I believe that's the way to go. And that's going to be the challenge for businesses that build and build and build. But I think it's a really good route to follow. On the remuneration, there are different models. It's tough both ways. It's tough for a young planner wanting to earn and you know, own a home and start a family, and it's then also tough for the person who's in the other shoes, where they built a business, which is their life, and they're having to give up stuff. So I think that just it speaks to finding the right people, but I'm not sure that there's one model that is perfect for that. Anyone else want to comment on that? Okay, guys, thanks. I think it's been a really good session. Thanks for the participation. Again, my comment on WhatsApp was simply because this group is growing. It was set up for a specific purpose to help young people in the industry, not necessarily young in years. And I want us to really get back to that. So some people will be removed. It's not. I'm not cross with them or anything, but we need to we need people to participate. You know, we understand that some people will go through phases in their life or career where they don't have time for this. There's no problem with that. You can, if you're not part of it, you can ask to join anytime. But it is important that we have people that contribute. So thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
I'll put a recording.
Thanks, guys.
I'll put a recording on the group, and
Thanks, Derek. Thanks, guys.
See you next month. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dick. Bye-bye.